Some say you can't teach storytelling, but you know what? I don't trust those people, because if I learned anything over my years in the marketing world, it's that a great story can change your life. I want to help you learn how to be a better storyteller so that you can share those moments with your life that resonate with your audience and help move them towards the sale. Here's the number one secret to storytelling. Think about your favorite filmmaker. Maybe it's Steven Spielberg or Martin Scorsese. They don't just start their feature film at scene one and then wing it for the rest of the movie. They know the exact emotional journey that they want to take their audience through. They already know how they want to affect and shift the beliefs of their customer before they produce their project. So just like those filmmakers, you want to take your audience on a journey. You want them to be along for the ride until the end of your piece of content, and then you want them to invest in whatever message or product or service it is that you're selling. Just like those filmmakers, your story should be better than your audience's stories. And what do I mean by stories? I want to get into more detail about that, but first, have you subscribed to my channel? I post new videos about video marketing and business acceleration tips every single week, so go ahead and click that red button. When I say that our stories need to be better than their stories, what I mean by that is their internal narrative. What are the stories that they're telling themselves that are false beliefs? Your audience is typically watching your content with a false belief in their mind that you're going to persuade them to break. Your stories are the basis of your content, so what we're going to do in this video is learn how to find the ones that monetize, to know how they tie into the message of your business before you move any further with content creation. When I'm meeting with a client, my goal is to do more than just solidify their branding or plan out their filming. It's all about messaging. When I get on one of the first calls with a new client, it's all about pulling out those stories from them. And I ask them really deep questions, and then my job is to dig deeper. And I've had some grown men cry on these calls. And not that I like making people cry, but I do take a little pride in that, because when you hit on emotion, that's when you create connection. Do you know why this is so important when it comes to your cash flow? I'm not saying that you have to make people cry, but what does that emotion have to do with sales? Well, people buy based on emotion. They buy emotionally, they justify logically. How many of you have ever bought something? Maybe you made a purchase decision that was emotional, maybe not so much practical. And that's the same thing that you can do with your audience. We're talking about stories that can appeal to a human, not just a buyer, because your stories hold power. Here are the basic steps to creating impactful content that actually converts. Step one is to build your own original content that's authentic to you. And step two is to drive impact with that thing. Now, obviously, we're oversimplifying it here, but I promise you, when you lead with a story, the impact and profit comes so much easier and with less effort. But to really demonstrate this for you, let me introduce you to my story selling framework. It's an acronym called the ELSA framework. And yes, this may remind you of Elsa, the Snow Queen, the songstress who sings "Let It Go," but for these purposes, do not let it go. Hold on to this, because this is what's going to set you up to turn your content into cash. ELSA breaks down into epiphany, lesson, story, and application. Let's start with the E for epiphany. Your epiphany is so important in storytelling. It's way more important than just this publishing your face off, because you don't get paid by the amount of content you create. You get paid to the level that you get your audience to engage. And you do that through stories. If you can hook your audience in and give them that epiphany that helps them break through, or maybe even changes their mind about something, when your stories are better than their stories, aka their false beliefs, they're much more likely to engage with your content, and you are more likely to get paid. So I'm thinking about, what is the underlying epiphany that I want my audience to take away from this? Because if I don't have that intention yet, I may as well just be creating content for the sake of content. But that's not what we're here to do. We are here to make an impact and a profit, and you don't do that by just winging it. The second part of the ELSA acronym is L for the lesson. Now, as a kid, and even if I'm being honest, even now, my biggest excuse to not go to bed on time was, but I just need another story. And I justify it because, Mom, it's educational. Because, you know, every story that starts with once upon a time has a moral of the story. So when I say lesson, I don't want you to think like buttoned up, robotic, Charlie Brown teacher, like wah, wah, wah. The lesson you teach or the moral of the story is important, but if you're just speaking cold hard facts, you're speaking to the left side of the brain, the logical side. Like the stats and tactics, sure, they show that you know what you're talking about, but if it's all stats and no story, it's a snooze fest. If it's all statement and no substance, it's fluff. So how do you give this lesson, this moral of the story, in a way that's memorable? I was following this famous influencer recently, and she was doing this Instagram live video where she basically just kept repeating the same phrases, kind of just in different words, like, you can do anything you set your mind to, and don't give up on your dreams, and there's always a way. And I was like, great. Yeah, and? Like, I just didn't understand the context or reason why they were saying those things. Like, sure, that's positive and uplifting and great advice, but if it's just a drive-by pat on the shoulder with no context, aren't you questioning why? Like, what's the takeaway? What's the meaningful message that will be remembered? And I kind of sat there for a second wondering, like, how much of personal development is just Barney for adults? Like, I don't know about you, but I like the kind of content where you have that aha moment. You feel the emotional shift. That's the stuff that makes a lasting impact. That's the stuff that makes you memorable and makes people trust you enough for them to give you their credit cards. So you owe it to yourself and to your audience to create a transformation. We teach through stories. We consider the epiphany we want our audience to have and the story that we can tell to give that epiphany and the lessons we want to get across, and then the application or the call to action, that next step that they can implement. Your stories will also teach a lesson about you, your attractive character, and allow your audience to learn or feel from your own experience. This brings us to the S in ELSA. So what story are you going to tell that naturally incorporates your epiphany and your lesson? People always ask me, where do you get your stories from? But honestly, my best advice here is that there are content ideas all around you. You just have to take the time to learn how to see it and learn how your content can become a cash flow system for your business. You don't need to go looking for stories because your trip to the grocery store can become a story. Your phone call with a friend can become a story. So don't stress if you can't come up with a story out of thin air, because I guarantee they already exist in your life all around you. Take stock of what you've been doing recently, or where you've been in the past week, or anything that's happened to you even throughout your whole life. How can you relate that back to your message? Where is the lesson? Where's the epiphany? Now think about that, and when you go out into the world after today, try to do so with this mindset so that you can be aware in the moment of, is this a story that has a lesson and epiphany that you can use when you retell the story to your audience? You know, when you have a really good heart-to-heart with a friend, you're gonna need to have a heart-to-heart with your content. Turn on a recorder, maybe start telling your stories, or in your mind, think through your life in chronological order and start to write out the moments that made you who you are today. Maybe even work with another entrepreneur friend of yours who's struggling to pull out their story or their messaging, and ask them questions about their origin story, and then get them to do the same for you. Just by getting into these deep conversations, you have certain realizations and epiphanies that you never would have expected. And as you grow, your content always evolves. I believe that entrepreneurship is a game of personal development. My content isn't the same as it was a year ago because I'm not the same as I was a year ago, or a month ago, or a week ago. That self-awareness and growth is going to impact how profound your content can be too. And over time, you'll keep growing your entire story inventory that you can reach into anytime you're launching a new video or speaking at an event or creating a new piece of content. One thing that I hope takes the pressure off for you is to realize that you already have the content and the frameworks inside of you. Content isn't created, it's captured. What we're doing here today is trying to capture the content so that you can apply it to your business and reap the rewards in cash flow. As I'm sharing my framework with you, I'd love for you to think for yourself, who are the storytellers, the influencers, the entrepreneurs, anyone online that you follow that you see as a good storyteller? And I want you to observe your own behavior in what is it about their content that captivates you? What is it about their story, their delivery, their messaging, their positioning? And why does it grab your attention? And then think for yourself, how can you be more like that? What is it about them that you can maybe take some little pieces and install into your own content? Not saying to copy them, but to take inspiration from them and be able to insert that into your own business. A friend of mine, Natalie Hodson, speaks about vulnerability and sharing content that is uncomfortable. And she was a great inspiration for me in seeing her example, and I'd totally recommend for you to go follow her on Instagram or YouTube. She's a great example of this and encouraged me in being an example for you in vulnerability and sharing my stories in a way that's real and authentic instead of blocked or sheltered. I think that this is the way to really connect with an audience on a deep level, by just laying it all on the table and being transparent. I know that it can feel a little nerve-wracking to do that at times. You think that people might judge you or that people aren't going to understand you, but newsflash, those people that do aren't your audience anyway. Think about the people who actually need you, the people that are going to become your paying customers and what they need. I still use this framework to this day. I've used this for years, no matter what level you are at in your entrepreneurship or in your business. This is something that every storyteller, every marketer should be using, even for webinars, for videos, for small pieces of social media, is to have that ELSA framework broken down, that you always have your epiphany, lesson, story, and application. I don't care where you're at in your business. I never want you to go into a piece of content just winging it. You need to have that epiphany so that people are walking away with that aha moment that brings them back to you. They need to have the lesson that's going to give them the tactical takeaways, the story that makes it memorable, that shows how you learned it and how you earned it, and the application that gives them the next step to implement it and see results from what you've given them. And that is the number one secret to storytelling that I hope you take away and implement in your content, because that can lead you to consistent high ticket sales. If you want to tell stories that not only intrigue your audience, but also ascend them into high ticket sales, you're going to love my next free private training. If you click the link in the video description below, I want to give you access to my highest performing, most revenue generating campaigns that you can actually plug and play into your business. So click the link below and get access to my Hello to High Ticket training. Because if I learned anything over my years in marketing and in this world, in the marketing world, okay. Here are the basic steps to creating an impact. I was